could not care.
Oh, you don't want to know what happens next in the expanded Conjuring universe?
None at all.
Fuck you.
Yeah. What do you expect? I don't know.
Like the series wasn't always bad.
No, it's from the dude who directed the Curse of La Lorena or whatever.
The fuck it is. I know the movie fucking sucked ass.
This is staggeringly bad. It is so boring. It is so boring. I didn't give a fuck about any of the characters. It does not deserve the quality of actors that it gets. The logic of the movie is very just... It's like, oh, things happen because they need to happen, and these bad things are happening to people, and people do dumb things constantly, and it's like...
And like, here's the thing, is the fact that, like, I never saw the first one, but I know the first movie was directed by
James Wan. I did see the first one. I actually liked the first one. I remember being surprised at how good the first one actually was,
and I remember
compared to most possession movies.
And I remember liking the second one. The second movie was good. Like, it wasn't like terrifying or anything like that, but like it was decent enough. Like, it had a good heart to it. Like, it knew where to put the focus on.
Sure.
And then after Conjuring 2, the whole thing just fucking plummeted. Between the goddamn Annabelle movies, which like the second one was good. Well, the first one sucked. I never saw the third one. And then of course The Nun, which also sucked ass.
And then La Lorna and
Ghost of La Lorena, or however the fuck you say
which
it.
is, the same director as this one.
Which I think is supposed to be Conjuring movie, even though it has fuck all to do with any of the rest of the movies.
I just found myself having a very hard time giving a shit about this movie. The initial possession scene is, it's visually what it pulls off pretty well. It's pretty cool looking in what it does, but what it does is nothing new.
This feels like a horror movie tailored for dumb people. Is kind of how I feel it, because I know I was trying to figure out the timeline for these fucking movies, because I don't remember if this is a sequel or a prequel. And I just remember one of the first ones on the search engine said, like, how much is The Conjuring 3 based on true events? And I'm like, it's based on a headline, basically.
Yeah. What? Really? I thought it was based at least on like court transcripts or something.
Something like that. Either way, it's basically like it's about as like based on true story as The Exorcist is. Just complete nonsense. And it's a franchise based on two charlatans. So like, how accurate do you think is it really, guys? For fuck's sake.
I mean, I think it speaks volumes that the only really good review I've seen of this so far was from Breitbart.
Ugh.
Where I think it's something about it being a tale of, the Christian faith battling against the powers of evil, which should really tell you all you need to know.
Which I also feel like these movies are never really that much about.
It's putting a lot onto it, but it really does go the extra mile to show that, they're true believers. There's one point in the movie where, I brought this up when we were watching, and I was like, wait a minute. Because they literally, at one point, get a book from, like, the early Renaissance era as a reference point for dealing with demons. And don't think that makes it anything exciting. Literally, one of the characters just goes like, I got this book from the early Renaissance, and it's just there. There's no quest to find it or anything. It doesn't add anything. It's just like, oh, we suddenly have a resource, and we're going to have a lead now because this dude has this book. But you're telling me these people are literally using, like, this movie is essentially saying that the worst eras of Christian persecution, and not in the sense of Christians being persecuted, but like them persecuting people just based on hunches, like, Crucible shit.
like the Inquisition and stuff like that.
Yeah, basically saying that that's the arrow we want to draw upon as our reference, our source of truth.
Meanwhile, Mel Gibson song's playing in my head.
I just there's something. There was something so. The implications of that within this movie are kind of staggering. I know it's not thinking about it that deeply.
No,
but
I feel like even that's giving it a little too much credit. I get what you're saying.
No, it's giving it too much credit, but it's the fact that like the perspective this movie is coming from is that there were actually witches and demons back there, and that the church was actually doing good work, and that it was justified in what it was doing, and that it was all good, and the church was actually good back in that era. To make that statement as part of your film's canon is so fucked up. Like, it's such a fucked up proposition
True.
to make.
I get what you're saying. At the same time, I was kind of like, I don't think anyone is thinking about it on that level.
I'm not saying they're thinking about it. I'm saying that they're accepting it without even thinking about it.
I mean, my
that
point
they're looking at that as a reference and going, yeah, this is how I see those things. Like,
to me, it's like it's such a Cliff Note version of it, though. It's like nobody outside of like people who overthink things like we do is gonna take it.
You're not getting what I'm saying.
Okay.
You're not getting what I'm saying.
All right.
I'm not saying that they're implying that there's a larger lore to the movie and that they're going to make movies taking place during the Inquisition era where the Inquisition's the good guys. I'm saying that the people making this movie are basically coming from the side of like, yeah, the church is this good. And it always has been.
Yeah, okay,
and
fair enough.
all of this shit that's been said about the church over the years and all this bad stuff about, Renaissance era churchdom, actually not true, because the people who've been actually fighting the demons all this time know that they were right. Like, if it's not something they've thought about, it's just it's the way they see the world.
Maybe.
And it's reflected in that decision.
Maybe, yeah.
There are things people do in movies sometimes where it's indicative of their worldview or whatever.
Possibly. I can also see it as like, oh, this is the church did. What if it was real? And they just kind of went with that. So I can also see it as just a lazy script writing tool without thinking of
You would literally have to look at one of the most infamous eras of torture and pointless murder of civilians of the church and go like, what if they were right?
I can absolutely see an idiot in Hollywood doing that.
No, but that's my point. They're just going like, yeah, hey, this is part of our universe. This is what we're going to do with it. This is how we're going to reflect on that era with a throwaway line. Like, okay. And they didn't have to do that.
No,
they didn't have to do that at all. They didn't. But they did. So,
I know you and I were, like, the most fun you and I had from this movie, just making up better movies we'd rather be watching.
we were making jokes about this all the way through. We couldn't, it was impossible, because we were so bored.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we walked into this, like, wanting to hate it. We didn't have expectations for it. Like, neither of us was expecting this to be good.
No.
And neither of us, like, I didn't want to watch it alone. I wanted someone to at least suffer with me. Like,
I didn't want to watch it alone either. So
yeah, but walk through the flames together, right? And we're both sitting on the couch just leaning back, and there were points where we both just laughed.
Oh, yeah.
Just laughed so hard.
Mostly the jump scares. Whenever, like, a jump scare happens, it's usually, like, the dumbest bullshit.
Yeah. There's... Oh, man.
There was a sequence you practically called out, like, shot for shot how it happened. Not even like you're trying to predict the scene as it was, like, they're trying to predict the scene. So much like, this is a major safety hazard because of X, Y, and Z. And next thing you know, X, Y, and Z happen almost verbatim.
It was funny because I was literally just bringing it up as like, look, this is what happens when you have that. Like, the fact that you have that mechanism in this kind of facility is bad for this reason. And literally less than 2 minutes later, that exact thing happens. And I didn't even say "told you so." I just said, "See." Man, oh, God, it's so stale.
It's hackneyed. It's lazy.
It's so lazy. It's so boring. It's just so boring. If you've never seen a movie like this before, I guess.
Like,
but
it kind of just reduces, like, actual competence by James Wan into just a run-of-the-mill horror movie that you've seen a million fucking times.
It's Saw 2.
That wants to be The Exorcist, even draws direct imagery from The Exorcist.
Saw 2 was more fun. I'm putting him through the Saw movies, and we watched Saw 2 for the first time a couple weeks ago.
For some reason, he's making me do this.
God, it's bad. I actually was looking through some Saw stuff on Letterboxd recently because someone happened to rewatch Saw 5 recently and post a review of it, and I was like, oh, okay. And it led me to a couple other reviews, and it led me to like a list of the Saw movies ranked, and I agreed almost exactly with the ranking. And in the comments, the person was talking about it, and they're like, rewatching it again, like, it's not that great, but I feel like if you've never seen them, getting through them is worth it just for how good number 6 is and how much it relies on the previous movies. And I've never seen a non-linear story told in this fashion spread out over this many films. Like, it really is something unique and interesting. And I agree with that 100%. Like, Saw 6 is not a masterpiece, but it pulls off something really unique and interesting that I think is totally worth watching. Mm-hmm. So, stick with me. Well, we can do this.
All right. Fast and Furious first, though.
Yes, we got to get through Fast and the Furious to lead up to F9. And to be fair, we had a lot more fun with Fast and the Furious 4 than we did with Saw 2. But, you know, it's...
We're never pretty bored.
Well, I mean, for the first half of Fast and the Furious 4 is a slog. It is
the climax though is great.
So bad. It is so bad. But then you get to the point where like Dom is blowing up cars, and you're like, all right, this is getting good, and then it's kind of fun, and the dialogue's stupid and fun and like cheesy. But then you get to the final battle sequence where Dom is literally shooting like a fleet of cars, like 12 cars chasing him through the desert. Just takes a shotgun out and shoots them. Literally, like, flips 2 cars with each shotgun blast. It is hilarious. Yeah.
It's tip of the iceberg, my friend.
No, I know. And it's very cool to see the beginnings of where that would eventually go. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited just to buckle down and watch Fast 5 after this, because this movie was so bad. It was so boring and predictable and not entertaining.
And it's like really has like nothing to do with any of the other movies, which is weird because like it feels like since Conjuring 2 they were trying to build up like the nun character as this big ultra bad guy, and then it just kind of drops that completely. Which,
I don't know, the portrait's in the collection still, you can see it.
It's there, the reference is there, ooh boy. And then like there's a lot of different elements I'm guessing like were from Annabelle 3 that I didn't watch. Like the guy who brings the Inquisition book. It's like, I'm guessing he's like a boyfriend that was established in Annabelle 3. They have to remind us that they have a daughter constantly through the movie. Even when she first appears, she's like, oh, Dad! It's like, all right, they have a daughter. All right, cool. Neat. And like, at least the 2 characters were like, had kind of a like a quaintness to it, like in the first couple movies.
Yeah, but I mean, the 2 characters at least have their own chemistry. Even if even if Ed, the husband, does like, he's just dead weight.
He's just a dumbass in this movie.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I'd make like the dumbest arguments to court. Like that was whole thing.
God, it feels like shitty Christian propaganda at points. It is really.
I was reminded of God's Not Dead too, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I know of it, and I know what it's about, and I've watched things on it, and yeah, you don't want to be reminded of stuff like that.
No.
When you're watching a Conjuring movie.
It's kind of like when Aquaman reminded me of Die Hard 5. It's like, oh, that's bad.
Oh boy. Yeah, this is just a worthless mess. There were definitely points that were supposed to be serious or intense that I just at best they made me laugh. At worst, just sigh heavily and look at Michael with a how long is left kind of look.
Oh, you both felt that way.
Oh yeah, and this movie feels so much longer than it is.
Yeah, we started this like 8, ended at 9:30, and I was like, why does it feel like it's 11 right now?
It feels like, yeah, it feels like...
And we have scotch watching this too, or sorry, whiskey.
Good whiskey. It feels like the 3rd month of quarantine, basically.
Oh,
like,
God.
That kind of...
That's a horrible feel. That's a horrible...
That kind of time dilation. So, you know, if we need to frame a reference for the kind of fucking, like...
Oh, that's... I felt that. That hurt.
No, it's weirdly accurate, isn't it?
It physically hurt me.
Yeah, so,
I don't really have much to say about this fucking movie.
That covers it. Don't watch it.
It's just there's nothing to this. It is empty. It is shallow. It is.
There are literally dozens of other horror movies that are really good that you've probably never heard of, just tucked away on Netflix and Hulu and Showtime.
It tries to establish like a rivalry with like the new villain that goes nowhere.
Did you know that HBO actually has a bunch of Turner Classic Movies stuff on there? Like they one of the networks that they bundled into their stuff with like Adult Swim and everything, and DC Universe is TCM. So you actually have access to a shit ton of really good classic films on HBO Max that I didn't know you would have access to. Like you have access to The Passion of Joan of Arc. Like that is a landmark piece of cinema, and it's still very fascinating to watch. It's still interesting. It's still pretty intense in its own ways. There's so many pieces of good filmmaking you could be watching. There's so many more entertaining pieces of trash filmmaking you could be watching. There's so many better horror movies in so many other ways and genres you could be watching. Don't watch this. There's no point. Why waste your time on this? I wish I didn't have to watch this, but we have this show.
Thanks.
So yeah, you're welcome. Don't do it. There's no reason to.
But one thing you can do is help us pitch our Michael Keaton and
oh yeah, if there was a way to do
Gilbert Godfrey screenplay pitch.
Yeah, we came up with an idea.
Some producers. Like a possession movie, except the ghost is not dangerous at all, just kind of more mildly annoying.
more like a rude house guest that just won't leave. And because early in the movie there's a thing where like literally like you mentioned something about cereal. I'm like, oh man, if the ghost's like haunting thing is just being like making a cereal mess, like being messy with cereal, I'm gonna laugh. And literally like 10 seconds later goes around the corner, there's a box of cereal splayed all over the ground, and we started making jokes about how the ghost wants cereal, and then we just got to like making the idea how like where like the demon's just like, hey, you got any bagel bites left? Like just this it wasn't Gilbert Godfrey initially, it was just this like, I don't know, like you're out of milk. Like,
and it turns into Gilbert Godfrey. Can you buy Paramount Plus? I want to watch Star Trek Discovery. I know it's not very good, but I just really like to watch it.
If you bundle it with Showtime through Apple TV channels, you get them both for $10 a month. That's not even Gilbert Godfrey. I don't know what I'm doing. But the point is, he has that kind of weird, like, kind of accent, like, and, you can't get rid of him. It's just, and then eventually I'm like, I really think that this is going to be what half of the new Venom movie is going to be. So I'm really happy about that. I'm looking forward to it. The new trailer made me pretty excited. The whole yummy moment, just like fucking, that is my jam. Looking forward to how just ham-fisted that's going to be. Point being, you'll make shit up in your head that's more entertaining than this movie as you're watching it.
I think the ones that came up were like The Conjuring meets Beetlejuice.
Yeah, The Conjuring meets Beetlejuice was another, that would be something I would want to see.
And The Fast and The Conjuring.
The Fast and the Furious and Conjuring crossover, like, there's got to be a way, like...
you use word the Damen.
It's not a demon, it's a Damen. It's not evil.
Win.
It's not evil, it's family. Like, just... Anyway, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. Like, we've riffed enough.
That was me. That was me just padding the runtime.
Yeah, let's talk about a good movie.
Yeah, let's go talk about Rise of Justice. Stay tuned.
All right.
Bye.